My name is Jerry Davidson. I've been an investor since 2009. I'm also a real estate agent, member of the Texas Association of Realtors, National Association of Realtors. And we're going to go through a couple slides today, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end. We'll cover both theory and tactical, so we'll give a little bit of both. Just by show of hands, how many people in the room currently have rental properties that are up and running and occupied and stable? Okay. And then how many people have not yet bought anything but want to? Okay, so we've got a good mix of both. Okay, well, hopefully I can provide some insight into some of the more seasoned investors in here and provide some encouragement, and we'll do a case study, and I'll actually show you the nuts and bolts for somebody who's new to this of exactly what a property looks like when you get started, what it looks like when you're done, what you do to it to get it there, how much it costs, and some of the vendors in this room. In fact, I've probably done business with almost every vendor in this room. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. My legal disclaimers are, I am an actively licensed realtor, member of those associations and an agent with Tinley Realty, and I am not a CPA. I am not a law guy. I do own and personally manage the property that we're going to be discussing today, so I have my own permission to disclose to you. And I don't believe I represent anyone in this room, so I am now taking my realtor hat off, and I'm going to talk to you investor to investor. One of my favorite quotes, information's power, but it is pointless power if hoarded. I'm not paid to be here. I'm doing this because I was asked to, because I've got some experience in the field, I've got some recent experience in the field, and I enjoy sharing and bouncing ideas off of other investors because that's how we learn. So for the seasoned investors in the room, they're here because they're looking for that one or two pieces of information that maybe makes their business better. And for the new folks in the room who are just getting started in investing, this is going to open your eyes to a whole realm that you never thought was possible, including passive streams of income and possibly retiring much earlier than you ever thought possible. Let's talk about common obstacles. These are some of the things that I've found are the most common things when you're first getting started that you don't know where to start. Being here is a very, very good start. There are multiple events throughout the month, different, not only with Investor Block is getting off the ground here, and this is a fantastic, almost 200 people in the room. Great place to start. There's the Roddy group, there's Lifestyles Unlimited, there's a couple of groups in Arlington, I forget the guy's name, I haven't made it out to some of the Arlington ones, but look around for resources in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and you will find in other places that can teach you what it is that you need to learn, what you seek knowledge in. A lot of times we get unqualified advice from other people. Our parents, our family members, friends, pastors, they all love us, they all mean well. But if they're not actively investing in real estate, I ask you to respectfully decline to hear what they say about it. If they're not doing it successfully, they are unqualified to provide advice about that. They may be, the greatest pastor in the world and can tell you all the biblical verses and things principles you need to live by, but if they're not actively investing in real estate, leave their real estate comments at the door and talk to the people that are doing it successfully. That's how you succeed in life. You don't reinvent wheels. You follow in other people's footsteps that have done it and have done it recently, not 30 years ago. Maybe you're employed full-time already. You've got another job that you do 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Maybe you have to travel a lot. That's a common obstacle. Maybe you've got horrible credit or a bankruptcy or a foreclosure or some sort of judgment against you that's holding you back. Maybe your own spouse doesn't support you. Your family thinks you're freaking crazy for getting into this market. At this point, there's foreclosures everywhere. You're going to lose your shirt, man. Or maybe you're starting out a family. I'm 39 years old. When I got started in real estate, I was 35 and a half. And I had young ones of my own. Or maybe you've got a lot of wealth tied up in 401k, IRAs. Obviously, Ryan in the back can help you with some of that. I took a slightly different strategy. But these are some of the common obstacles that I've seen, and I've personally encountered every single one of these. So what does it take to do a deal? You're going to need these 4 elements. If you don't have all 4 of these elements in one place at one time, you will not be successful. You won't even get off the ground. Now, does that mean that you yourself have to have all 4? No. But all 4 of these need to be present in the deal. So you need time, money, knowledge, and credit. You got those 4 things, you can move forward. You don't have those 4 things, find someone who complements you that can give you those 4 things. You got to be willing to pull the trigger. Analysis paralysis will keep you on the sidelines, and I see it time and time again. It is the #1 inhibitor to being successful in real estate that I see. I work with lots of investors, many of them friends of mine. They ask me questions, they want to move forward, they come to events like this, they meet all the vendors, they exchange business cards, they trade tables, and then they do nothing. Don't be one of those. Hire people smarter than you. Finishing touches, you got Harvey Zepeda over there and Andrea, badass team members of mine. Very smart, they know what they're doing. I have a philosophy that I learned years ago: if you lift a hammer, you're doing it wrong. And last but not least, you have to have a desire to serve other people. This is the core foundation of any business that succeeds. You must serve people, whether you're selling something, whether you're providing a service. If you don't have a mentality to sell and to serve, you will fail in this business, and I will buy the house from you 3 years from now when you're foreclosed on. So these are my 7 tips for successful real estate investing. Again, we're doing just all theory now. We'll get into some tactical stuff with some actual photos and numbers and stuff for all you type B personalities. Get around people that are doing it right. Reinventing the wheel is going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. And build your team of partners in your deals. You need real estate investors. You need real estate agents. You need insurance guys. Ryan, I've worked with Ryan in the past. You need rehabbers. You need CPAs, attorneys. Build out your team now. That is not something that you need to wait until you've got a property under contract to have formed. You can build these relationships now. You can build them ongoing. Some vendors will come into your life and leave. Others will stay with you for a very long time. It's a revolving door, and that's okay. But you need to know, if you get into a legal issue, who are you going to call? If you want to find property, who are you going to call? If you need to insure property, who are you going to call? Focus in your backyard. Don't be an out-of-state landlord initially. I wouldn't advise it at all, but don't be an out-of-state landlord. Focus on the areas where you know. You live, you work, you play. If you live in Louisville and you work in downtown Dallas, you got the whole DFW complex to suit your tastes. But if you're like me and I live in Murphy, just east of Plano, and I work in Richardson, I'm not going to buy something in the Colony. I love the Colony. It's red hot rental market right now, but I'm not going to go there, and I don't want to go there to go show a property, show a tenant of the house. I just, out of convenience, I don't want to invest in that area. Not that it's a bad area, it's just not my area. Ronald Reagan said it best: trust but verify. I don't care if you got the numbers from me or New Western or some other agent or some other wholesaler or some other investor who tells you that, you know, this is the price and this is what it's worth. Bull. Run your own numbers. If you don't know how to run your own numbers, learn how to run your own numbers. And thank God for Investor Block putting up this new website that they're doing that will enable you to actually run your own comps. I don't know of any other site that's doing that for free. I had lunch with Kurt a week or two ago, and when he told me about that, I was blown away when I was waiting for him to tell me how much he was going to charge for this and what his price point was going to be. I know other vendors in town, they'll charge $80 a month. You can actually join MLS, and maybe it's $100 a month. As a realtor, I think I pay $144 a quarter, just to give you an idea of what it costs as a realtor. But you got to be able to run your own numbers, and you got to run your own numbers. And that's an art that you'll build up confidence in your ability to do. And just remember that any given person's ARV is just an opinion, even an appraiser. So just because somebody tells you something's worth 120 grand does not necessarily mean that a bank is going to think it's worth 120 grand, or that another investor that you're selling it to is going to think it's worth 120 grand. It is what the market says that it is, not what someone says it is. Oops, got ahead of myself. Sam Walton, I'll steal this quote from him. He said, if you appeal to the masses, you will eat with the classes. But if you appeal to the classes, you're going to eat down with the masses. If you look at what Walmart does as a company, I hate them to death, but I love them academically. Walmart markets to the mass population of America. They sell everything you could possibly want, and they are a huge, huge corporate success story because they market to the masses. If you buy properties that are in the $80,000 to $120,000 range, the sweet spot of Texas, that is where probably 70, 80, 90% of all first-time home buyers, tenants that want to rent your property, that's the property zone that they're looking for. Can you be successful outside that range? Yes. I've got investors that are friends of mine. They buy $30,000 homes that are worth $60,000 when they're done, and they're highly successful. I've got other members of a group that I'm a member of. All she buys are $220,000 homes. That's all she buys. She has 5 of them in Coppell, and she does extremely well with them. But you're marketing to niche markets, and you just need to understand that. You can be successful, but you're going to have the most opportunity for success where the masses are. And the masses, those first-time 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 1,500 square foot houses, that's what you see everywhere. So appeal to those masses. Focus on those types of parameters when you're looking at properties. And speak to other investors in here that are seasoned. Don't just take my word for it, really. Run your own numbers, run your own analysis with other people. Hey, what types of houses do you have? Describe the last property that you just bought. They'll tell you probably the same thing. Number 6, flipping houses does not build wealth. And this is going to strike a chord with some people. And I put an asterisk next to it because I'm currently flipping a house. So I do believe in flipping. I don't believe that flipping builds wealth, and here's the difference. When you buy rental property, you buy property that you're going to rent out for passive monthly income, or semi-passive, let's say. That is going to pay down your mortgage. As that tenant pays you their rent check, you're going to turn around and you're going to pay your mortgage on that if you don't own it free and clear. You're going to have plenty of money left over that you can spend or reinvest in your business, and that is building wealth. You're paying down your principal note, and you're building up your cash reserves or your retained earnings of your business. And you get 5, 6, 7, 8 houses going, you're making $2 to $3 grand a month in positive cash flow after all your expenses. That is true wealth building. Wealth building is not going and flipping houses, which if you stop doing that, you stop making money. That is earned income. It is another job. I accept that as another job, and I do it for a very specific reason, and that is so that I can raise money and buy more rent property. And the last one, which is my favorite, partnerships suck. Partnerships suck, and I have them. And here's when you need to know when you need one and when you don't. Remember that little diamond slide that I had that said time, money, knowledge, credit. Those 4 elements that you need in order to make a successful real estate transaction. If you don't have all 4 of those, what do? Well, if you don't have time, you can either free up time or find someone who has time. If you don't have money, you can either save money or find ways to earn more money, or go partner with somebody who has money. If you don't have knowledge, you can either learn it or you can find someone who knows about it. And if you don't have credit, you can either fix it or find somebody who's got awesome credit. Any combination of those, but you got to have all 4 in the same place. And if you don't, you either sit for a while, however long that takes you. Money, it may take you 6 months, it may take you 2 years. Credit, the same thing. Or you partner. And so when you partner, you have to know that you are giving up, you're entering into a marriage with someone or multiple people that you're going to be giving up control. And real estate for me is all about having control of my destiny, of my cash flow, of how I run my business. And when you partner, there's nothing wrong with partnerships, except that they suck. There's nothing wrong with partnerships, but you have to understand that you are entering in a set of emotional and maybe they have different needs than you do and want something different out of that relationship than you do. You have to be very clear, and you have to do this in writing. Who's got what assignment? Who's putting in what into this relationship? What are we going to get out of it? What's our exit strategy? When do we know that we've been successful? And when is this damn thing over? I had the good fortune of meeting Dave Ramsey. I had lunch with him on Wednesday in Houston at his EntreLeadership. And this is a quote I got out of his seminar that I took. And he's got a book called EntreLeadership. But an expert is someone who has done it lately, not someone who has an opinion. Again, find people who are already doing it successfully being the key word, and imitate them. And that's how you will be successful as well. Real estate's been done for thousands of years. It's not like land just formed. People have owned land and done things with land for millennia, and there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. Follow the people who are doing it right, and you will learn to do it right, and you will do it right yourself. Okay, so anybody want to see a tactical, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts. I'm going to give you dollar signs. I'm going to give you a list of all things that were done. I'm going to show you photos of before and after. This was a deal that I bought about a year and a half ago. It's in Garland, Texas. There's the address. You can look it up. It's a 322, right at that sweet spot we talked about on marketing to the masses. Built in 1980, so I didn't have to deal with lead-based paint. And it's located on a corner lot, which is great for rentals. You get a lot of exposure from the cross streets. And it's over by Firewheel Mall, which I just happen to love. That's my new fishing hole. So this is what I paid for it. That's when I bought it and actually closed on it. May have been Adobe title, I'm not sure. That's what I paid finishing touches to remodel the whole thing, plus any trips I took to Home Depot to go get a welcome mat, or any little things I forgot to tell them about that I just didn't want to bother with it, and it was easier for me to drive by the store. That is my all-in number for rehabbing. This is what I currently have it rented out for. That's when I rented it. It is on a 2-year lease. That is my preference. I love 2-year leases because I like managing my own properties, and I don't want to deal with them for more than, every 2 years. I initially bought it using a hard money lender and some of my own cash. I later, once it was rehabbed, rented, I then refinanced it. That was my initial loan balance on the deal. You can see from May 17th to July 29th, a little over 2 months to get that done, lock, stock, and barrel. This was my total all out of pocket, all cash. This is every dime I spent as it appears in my QuickBooks. So this is not some fantasy number that I subtracted 2 numbers from. This is actually what came out of my bank account. This is what I paid in closings, in hard money lender fees, everything that I paid that came out of my bank account, either via cashier's check, debit card, cash, or personal check. That's my total number of what I did on that deal. You'll notice that I came out of pocket less than what the rehab was costing me. And there's a reason for that, and it's called leverage. When you use hard money or you use other people that are giving you loans based on the future value of a house, a lot of times you can buy at a really cheap price and come out of pocket not very much. This is my cash flow currently today. If I go and I get a 1095 check and I turn around and I write my mortgage payment, my principal and interest, I write my insurance check, I write my property taxes, that's what I net after that. That does not include maintenance, but that is my, after I pay all the people I got to pay on the first of the month, that is what I net on this property. So let's talk about equity capture. So equity capture is when you buy something and fix it up for 80 grand and it appraises for 100 grand, your equity capture is about 20, more or less. That's equity capture. This particular property appraised twice, so the hard money lender came in with his appraiser, and then once I refinanced it, the bank came in with their appraiser. They both came with the same number, so I got fortunate on that. Again, there was my conventional refi loan. I got a 5 1/8 percentage. Again, this was a year and a half ago. There was my total cash out of pocket. There's my all-in positive equity capture that I made on my 19 grand that I came out of pocket for. That's what I truly netted if I were to turn around and sell it myself. And of course, I'm a realtor, so I don't have to pay realtor fees on that. But if I were to turn around and sell it to my tenant, that's what I would net. That's a 60% unrealized capital gain. The day I bought it, that's what I made on my money. Has nothing to do with how much I rent it for. That's next slides. So let's talk about cash flow. So again, cash flow is your income minus all your expenses for the month. So rent, and you back out your principal and interest, your taxes, your insurance, your PI, TI, that's cash flow. Again, I rent this for just under $1,100, and you'll notice I do $10.95. Some of my properties are $11.95. Don't ever rent a $1,100 property for $1,100. You realize how many potential tenants are getting turned off because they only want to buy something for, rent something for $1,000 or $1,050 or something. They won't look at an $1,100 property. They'll look at a $10.95 property all day long. So, little marketing tip. There's my payment to, on this one, I think it's some company in California. That's a 30-year lender on that. That's what I pay in property taxes. Really fun thing to learn about, an advanced skill for some of you seasoned investors. If you're not protesting your property tax assessed values every year, you're an idiot. Do it. It has saved me thousands and thousands of dollars, and it doesn't take very much of your time. It just takes a little bit of knowledge. If you're interested, get with me after the seminar, and I will give you some tips and some pointers on where to go. I love doing this. In fact, can I say this? I'm doing it for Kurt, so it's kind of fun. I just get my rocks off. It's like walking into a store.
$1,000.
Yeah, I'm going to save him several thousand on his, is that your primary residence?
No, not split.
Oh, okay. So yeah, saving him a lot of money. So I'll go in, and this property that I paid $57,500 for, I think it was taxed at 90 something. And I walk in and I show them my closing statement from my title company, and I say, I'd like to reduce this, please. And they say, okay, sign here. And now my taxes are based on $57,500. Very, very easy to do. And little known fact, deadlines mean nothing. I've protested on December 21st before. There's my property insurance. And that's how I came to my 513 number. So for anyone that wanted to actually see how those numbers work, there it is, plain as day. I don't hide anything from my numbers. In terms of cash on cash rate of return, my 19,000 and so odd cash out of pocket, and if you take that 513 number a month and you multiply that times 12 months, it's a little over $6,000 on my $19,000 cash out of pocket. That's where that 31.9% cash on cash rate of return. That is tax-free income. How many's got stock portfolios doing 32% a year? Mine aren't, that's why I don't own them. All right, let's talk a little bit about the rehab. So we did foundation repair on this particular property. Did 13 piers, had 2 slab leaks. In fact, I bet it was you guys that actually did the foundation repair, since you work a lot with finishing touches. We did countertops, we did sinks, we did toilets, we did paint, we did anything that you could possibly say that looks old, we did. Again, this house was built in the 1980s. And so it had the typical, wicker ceiling fans and wood paneling from the late 70s, and had a little bit of the brass everywhere, actually a lot of brass everywhere. And my philosophy is if it's got electricity or water flowing through it, it's gone. It's not worth my time to have to get all those phone calls after the fact, and that's where a lot of the tenants, toilets, taxes, nightmare phone calls that people bitch about, that's where they come from, is because you didn't pay heed to this warning. If it's got water or electricity flowing through it, redo it, replace it, whatever you need to do. Fix it up front and assume that it's broken. Because if it's not broken now, it's broken in 2 months. Promise you. Hands down. And the cool thing is that because you're using hard money, or you're using rehab plus acquisition money all at once, you get to roll these into your financing. So it's not like you're coming out of pocket for everything all up front. You will be if you wait 2 months once a tenant's in there. You'll be paying some dude to come there for $75 to show up, and whatever it costs to fix it, out of pocket every time. Do it up front, save yourself some headaches, roll it into financing, and forget about it. And make that your standard policy. Every time you do a house, you do it this way, and you don't ever have to question yourself. As I said, anything brass or wood paneling, I don't let stay in my houses. I know lots of people that doesn't bother them, but if I've got a fireplace enclosures are the #1 thing. You get those fireplace screens that are brass, and you got the little chain metal and the glass, gone. You walk into a house and you see that, do you think 2000 era, 2010 era? I mean, how many home builders are putting brass fixtures in their homes now? I mean, almost everybody's gone to the, I want the patina bronze, or I want the satin nickel. That's what people expect. And I promise you, if you put things other than brass and wicker and wood in your houses, tenants are going to notice. They're going to know that you've got the nicest property that they have seen that weekend. And on average, does anybody know how many properties the average tenant looks at before they make a decision? 4 properties is the average amount of homes that a tenant looks at before they pull the trigger. They're very quick thinkers. So if you are one of those 4 and you've got a property next door to me and I've got my property and mine has done all of this and yours hasn't, who do you think they're going to rent from? That's 50% of the houses they're looking at that weekend, and they're making a decision. By the way, I've never had a house sit vacant for more than 5 days. Best product, best price, no freaky people. You get the best pool of candidates you could possibly pick from, and you've got people that are really, really, really interested in your house. You don't have to sell it. The house will sell themselves. You put the best product out there. You replace the things that you know damn well are going to break, and you're going to have to get a call on them later. You fix them up front when you don't have somebody living there, and you price it according to what the market is, not according to what you want to make, not according to your expected profit margins. You know that before you do the deal, or you don't do the deal. That's how this game works. Real estate is a very, very forgiving sport, but you know the outcome before the game is ever played. And that's the way it should work, and that's the way it does work. And people who don't get that are the people that are overpaying for houses and will be in foreclosure in 3 years. And then all of us will be really happy. Permits and marketing. So this is something that I had to learn kind of on my own because I didn't see anybody teaching it. Did you know that every city has control of some aspect of your business of landlording? So if you go into, for example, Garland, or you go into Plano, or you go into Richardson, or you go into Arlington, they've all got different rules to play by, and you got to know what these rules are. Since this property in particular is in Garland, we're going to go over Garland's rules, which I happen to think are very, very landlord friendly. I love Garland. Garland, for example, requires a $55 annual per property permit. They will come in, they'll do a city inspection, they'll make sure that you don't have any storm windows on the outside that are a fire hazard. They'll make sure that you don't have any rat holes that you haven't plugged or remediated. They'll make sure you don't have any rebar sticking out of the front yard. They'll make sure you don't have broken glass. They're there for the tenant to make sure it's a safe environment. And they will press every smoke detector in every bedroom and every hallway leading to a bedroom to make sure it's got a good battery. They're there to help and serve and make sure everybody has a safe, reliable place to live in. I don't fault them for that, and they do a fantastic job. However, if you do invest in Garland, and to my knowledge this is the only city that I've invested in that does this, they have a free certified landlord training program. It's a 4-hour deal. They offer it 3 or 4 times a year. It's in downtown Garland at one of their civic centers. And you show up and they've got a room this big of investors just like yourself that already own property and are looking to get out of the $55 a year, because what they offer as an incentive for this free training program in Garland is they will automatically bypass all future inspections of all properties you own or will own, and they turn all your permits into 3-year permits for the same price. So by going to a free 4-hour deal, and this deal's 3 hours and nobody paid you to come here, by going to a free deal, you're going to get $110 in permitting comped right off the bat. Let alone in between tenants, you don't have to tell them, hey, come out and re-inspect my property and wait 2, 3, 4, 5 days to get an inspector out there and or remediate any little issues that they found. I've not seen another city that does this, and I love them for that reason. In terms of marketing, your online marketing is very, very, very crucial if you're staying within that 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 1,500 square foot house that we talked about. If you start going outside of that range, online marketing plays a different role. But for this purposes of that targeted market, that mass market, online marketing is very crucial. Yes, you can do yard signs. Yes, you can put it on MLS. I'm a realtor. I don't use MLS for these particular properties because most people that are looking for this small of a house to rent for $1,000 or maybe $1,100, you don't see a whole lot of properties like that on MLS. The properties you do see for lease on MLS, 4,000 square foot homes that are renting for $2,700 for some executive that's moving into the Dallas-Fort Worth area and doesn't know quite which builder he's going to pick to build his house. Those are the types of rental properties you see at the high end. At the low end, you're going to see a lot of yard signs and, for rent, and those are great, and I've personally used them. But what I found is that if you use a lot of yard signs exclusively, or at all for that matter, even if you put the little info tubes on the top with the pretty little flyer in there, guess what? Tenants don't get out of their cars. They see a phone number and they call it. And even though you got all the information in the shiny little pretty tube, even color, they don't pick them out. You know who gets those flyers? Every time you go by that house and you say, oh, I put 30 flyers in there, there's only 2 left, or there's none left. You know who's picking them out? Neighbors and wholesalers. They're doing it too to see, ooh, maybe I can sell this guy. In fact, that's how, no sleight of hand on New Western, but I swear to God, they called me because I had a yard sign. That's the only way they found my number. And God bless them, because I bought multiple properties from them. I love these guys. But they're smart, They didn't do anything illegal. They used what was out there. And I was only marketing in yard signs. And the thing that is the most frustrating is that I'm all about putting all my cards on the table, telling you what I've got for sale, here's what I've done to it, here's what the price is. I hold no punches, and yet if I put a yard sign with a phone number, they're going to call me and ask for all that information, and they may or may not know what the rent is, and they may or may not know how many bedrooms it's got. And if you put all that information in a flyer and they don't read it, they're still going to ask you those questions. So by marketing online, not only are you targeting a different group of potential tenants, but they've read all the information right there because your phone number is in there somewhere and they had to read through it to find it. And the rent is on there and the bedrooms are on there and they know if little Johnny's gonna have a backyard to play in. They know all that information, and therefore, is your phone going to ring less? Yes. But are your leads more qualified? Yes. Number one fault of landlords who bitch and moan about, my property sat for 3 months. Either they're overpriced or they didn't answer their phone. And I learned this the hard way. If you have a property for rent and you're of the mindset where you only answer your phone on your terms and you return phone calls when it's comfortable for you, you're going to fail in this business. You have to answer your phone, even if you don't know who it is, because you know what? That's a customer. It's a customer that you just turned away. You had no idea what their situation was. They might be wanting to rent tomorrow. True story. Last week, I had a property in Mesquite that on last Sunday, the 1-year lease ended for my tenants that were in there. They were great tenants. We ended on great terms. They moved out when they were supposed to. They cleaned the property. On Saturday, the Saturday before, I put it up on Craigslist. I had a lady call me, she's my tenant now, who called me from a Homewood Suites rental hotel thing. She had 4 grandchildren holed up in a hotel room looking for a house. Had I not answered my phone, I might still have this property on Craigslist or putting a yard sign. You have to answer your phone, because you could be turning away dollars. And every day that you have a rental property that you're not collecting income on, I mean, this is an $1,100 property I've shown you. What's that divided by 30 days of the month? Every day that you delay, that's what you've just cost your business. And real estate is a business. If you think it's anything otherwise, you're gravely mistaken. You have to run this like a business. And businesses who don't answer their phone when customers call will fail. They will close their doors. So let's go into some photos. I'll show you with the befores and afters of what we've done. We'll kind of go in. This was the standing in the living room. You've got the 80s shag carpet. You've got the brass and wicker ceiling fan. You can see in the background there, you've got a crystal chandelier, quite exquisite, and an orange walled kitchen on the left. Voila. You put vinyl plank flooring. It looks like wood, but it's really a giant sticker that goes on the floor. It's the most fantastic rental product I've ever used for flooring. I do not do this in retail flips, and I would not live in this with my own family because it's very hard. However, it is extremely landlord friendly. It is cheap. You can't burn it, you can't stain it, you can't scratch it with Doberman claws. It's indestructible. And if for some godforsaken reason they figure out a way to burn a hole with muriatic acid in one of the strips, it's like $1 to fix, and it's a peel and stick. You pry it up with an X-Acto blade and you slap another one down. Great, great product. We do a two-tone finish on the interior wall, so we do what we call realtor beige. And we do a white trim, makes it really pop. We replace a ceiling fan, we do a brushed nickel, a nicer ceiling fan in the common areas, and we just do usually like a white ceiling fan in the bedrooms, not nearly as nice, but we spend the extra 20, 30 bucks on a nicer ceiling fan in the living rooms. In fact, Harvey actually did this house. We do, you can see the crystal chandelier in the background of the dining room is now a appropriate light that's for the times. Here's another angle of that same living room. There's the fireplace, and again, a great shot of that brass ceiling fan. You like that, the drapery? Yeah, that's nice. I'm sorry this is a little bit darker photo, but just to show you, we clean it up. Just another angle of the same room, really. Here's that orange kitchen we talked about. It's pumpkin. That's all I can say, pumpkin. Wood parquet, laminate flooring. You've got, basic cabinets that are called doo-doo brown, and you've got just the orange, horrible walls. That's the finished product. In this particular example, we did keep the stove. It was actually in great shape, and it matched the other stuff that we were doing. But again, we went with the same paint tones. We replaced the flooring with new tile. So I do, in the common areas, I do that wood vinyl plank that we were talking about. In wet areas, kitchens and bathrooms and utility rooms, I'll do new tile, unless the tile is perfect. If you got cracked tiles, I rip them out and I redo the whole area. To redo that kitchen is probably $300, $400 for tile. We also painted the cabinets. We put on new brushed nickel hardware on the cabinets. Well, that's a nice looking kitchen. It's a galley kitchen. It's obviously from the 80s, but that's clean, it's safe, it's functional. That's all your tenants need, and that's all they deserve. I didn't mean it that way. I mean, you have an obligation. Sorry. Not that they deserve better than what the other products that are out there. That's my point. Sorry. No slip of the tongue is fault of the mind. So this is a typical bathroom. You've got the seashell sink, faux marble. I think that X is something Harvey did, probably get rid of. Ugly. Yeah, demo, that's right. You've got some basic tub stuff, basic fixtures on the plumbing. And I apologize that this next photo is actually not the same bathroom, but it's one that looks just like it. So there are subtle differences, but the concept is that the materials have changed. So you do new laminate countertops, you do brushed nickel faucet, you do a nice sink. The sinks are like, what, 25 bucks, 30 bucks? I mean, they're dirt cheap, and they make all the difference in the world, and you can't keep the seashell because it's actually part of the old countertop. We replace all the guts of the toilets, and unless the toilet itself needs to be replaced, we give a new toilet seat. And do just new brushed nickel fixtures in there. We also occasionally will replace the faucet head and the shower head. Dining room. This is a pretty amazing one. All right, so I'm going to ask you for 3 things that have changed dramatically in this. And just to see if you pick up on these 3 things. There's probably more than that. What do you see?
Wood blinds.
Faux wood blinds, that's right. I do 2-inch PVC wood blinds in every house on every window without fail. 2-inch faux wood blinds on an average house will cost me anywhere from $400 to $600 to buy them. I'll have finishing touches install them when I just drop them off. I do my own measurements. I just like doing that. That's probably the one thing I do on my houses now, is I just go measure blinds and order blinds. We replaced the chandelier. We also did tile on this particular one, just because it was going to look like a lot of wood if we did wood in this dining area. Anybody notice anything about the landscaping outside? This is semi-important. Trim. Just trim it. Make it look nice. Curb appeal. Curb appeal.
Popcorn ceiling.
Popcorn ceilings for rentals I don't mess with. I leave them as is. There's really not an expectation, and if I've got a tenant looking to lease an $1,100 property from me that bitches about, oh, you don't have skip trowel or, faux finish ceilings, they're probably a little higher maintenance than my business model is appropriate for, and I'll be happy to recommend them to somebody else. But if it were a retail flip, it would depend on the situation. If we're talking a $250,000 house with popcorn ceilings, it's going to be a problem. So these are some final remarks and some thoughts to get you thinking, then we'll go into some Q&A. This is what really turned on the light bulb for me. These are some of the guiding things that other people taught me, other investors and mentors, that when they said these things, it really, really struck a nerve. Your government and your employer owe you nothing in this world, and if you want to be successful and have a retirement that you are in control of, you must be in control now, not when you're 65 and not later. You have to take charge now. There is no obligation, and if you think there's an obligation, you have an entitlement mentality that you will quickly break free of in the investment community. We do not have entitlement mentalities. I am not entitled to collect a rent check every single month if I don't have renters. I have to go out and sell my houses for lease in order to get those. I have to work for that. The government is not going to put tenants in there, nor do I let them. And your employer doesn't want you to have income outside of their paycheck. You'll leave. There's a difference between being an employee of a company, being self-employed, like I own my own company. Yeah, but do you work in it? Will you make the same amount of money this year if you go to Australia and just, bug out? No. If you're self-employed, that is another job, and it's very admirable that you don't have to necessarily work for someone else, but it's still a job. And then there's being a passive owner in a business. If you can disappear for 6 months and make the same amount of money or close to it as if you were there, you've made it. That for me, that's my goal. That is my goal. I'll know that I'm there when I can go away for several months at a time, and I've got all my tenants automatically transferring funds into my bank account for rent, or PayPaling it, or dropping it off at a local bank branch. And I don't have to deposit rent checks, and I don't have to worry about things. And I've got, I have 7 rental properties right now, and I'm working on a flip, so I've got, 8 properties. When I get to 20 or so, I'll be there. That's my goal. But have the wisdom to know that, when enough is enough. Speculating versus investing. Huge, huge differences, and not a lot of people talk about it. If you invest in the stock market, in an individual stock, you are gambling that stock will perform, that company will do well, so that you as a shareholder will make some money. You have no control whether the CEO dies tomorrow. You have no control whether there's a big scandal in the organization. You lose control with that, and therefore you are speculating. You can't predict that you will make X amount of dollars in 2 months. Versus investing. And also they're going to be speculating in real estate. People who go and buy raw land, or who buy houses that are going to appreciate because that market's red hot, you're going to get burned. You're speculating. You are not making the same amount of money every single month, and therefore you don't know if it's a profitable investment. You think you know, but you may be wrong, and what if you're wrong? What if you take your $20,000 that you've worked so hard to scrunch up, and you could go buy a rental property, or you could go buy some land out somewhere that you don't know what you're going to do with, but you heard that somebody's coming to town and is going to build down the street. That's speculating. There's nothing wrong with it. You just have to understand that there's a difference between that and investing. Investing is when you know and have control over what you will make. When people buy a business to own and just be a passive owner in, they have already looked at the financials. They know the last 3 years of what that company has done. They might also have some ideas for improving it, making it more efficient. That is investing. When you buy rental real estate and you know that you're going to pay X to buy it and Y to fix it up, and it's going to be worth Z when it's done, and Joe over here is going to pay you $1,100 to live there, and your mortgage is going to be $400, and your taxes are going to be $65, and your insurance is going to be $120. You already know what you're going to make before you even close on the deal. That is investing, and that opened my eyes when someone explained that to me. This is something that I will steal from Lifestyles Unlimited, which I've been a member there for a number of years. They're an investment group based in Houston with an office in Las Colinas as well. But there's 5 different ways that every single dollar that you put into a piece of real estate makes you money. And a lot of people don't think about this. You make money off the cash flow. So that $513 a month on this property that I've shown you, that's my cash flow. Every single month I make that. If I have to send out a repair guy to go fix something once in a while, that comes off of that cash flow. But overall, in theory, you're going to make $6 grand on that particular property. That's your cash flow. And that's why I invest. I invest for cash flow. You're going to make money on equity capture. The day you bought it, I made $11,000 and some scratch on that property. That is unrealized, and if I were to turn around and sell today, that's what I would make. There's the tax advantage. Because you do not live in these properties, you do not get to only deduct mortgage interest on them. What does that say?
8 minutes.
8 minutes, okay, I'm sorry. You've got tax advantage. The IRS is going to leave you alone because you can actually depreciate that asset. That was probably the biggest thing that opened my eyes. You've got principal reduction. Every time that your tenant is paying their rent, you're turning around paying your mortgage, you're reducing your balance by $100, $150, $200 every single month. That adds up. And then there's market appreciation, which is speculation. You cannot control it. However, it does occur in history. Ever since 1776, real estate has doubled in the US every 20 years. So that's going to happen over time, but it's not why we invest. It is the icing on the cake. And that retirement redefined. My definition of retirement used to be that you save up for years and years and years, 15%, 10%, whatever, and when you turn 62 and a half, or whenever the government says you can turn, a certain age, you can retire and you live off your nest egg that you've saved, and you hope that you die before you run out of money. And that was the game. That was the plan. And that's what, I don't know who taught it, everybody teaches it. That's the game that we've all been accustomed to playing. I don't play that game anymore. I do not own a 401k plan. I did when I got started. I don't anymore. I do not have IRA assets. I put everything that I have into real estate that I control and I am the CEO of. And nobody else makes those decisions but me. And I love that. I don't have to worry even about a mutual fund because I don't own them. But when you buy 10 houses and they're making you this kind of money on every single one, that's $5,000 in passive income after you've paid your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance. It's $5,000 a month. That's a $60,000 rental income, tax deferred, tax free. That's the equivalent, if you back out the taxes from that, of you making a $75,000 job income. If somebody pays you $75,000 a year, or you can turn around, and many of you might actually have these assets already, that you can go out and buy 10 rental houses, you're technically retired. The moment that your income on the side meets and exceeds your bills, you're done. You can walk away if you want to. Most people don't. That was the surprising thing that I've learned. Most people don't retire just because they can, but they love knowing that they could. So, Q&A. I know that we only have a few minutes. Stupid questions don't exist. Please do ask them. If you don't ask, this is what will happen to you. And if you think of something, feel free to shoot me an email if there's something. If you'd like a copy of this, I'd be more than happy to send that to you as well. Again, I share. I'm not here. I'm not paid sponsor. So, yes, you had your hand up first.
On all your properties during your due diligence, do you have an inspection done on the property first? And the follow-up on that would be, during the inspection, what do you do if it's like a foreclosure to get utilities turned on or turned off during the inspection period?
Okay, so the question was about inspections. Do you do inspections on every single house, and how do you handle if it's a foreclosure, for example, nobody living there? How do you get the utilities turned on so that you can do inspections? For me personally, I highly recommend doing an inspection. I took my realtor hat off, but let me put it back on for a second. Realtors have to recommend inspections because if we say, oh, no, you don't need an inspection, and then you find something that's wrong, you're going to sue us, and we know that, and we have insurance that covers that, but still. Yes, I would recommend doing inspections. Let me tell you what Jerry Davidson, the investor, has done. The very first property that I ever bought, I paid an inspector to come in. I familiarized myself with what an inspection looks like, how it goes, what deficiencies are, what they mean, which ones you got to worry about, which ones you don't. And a lot of inspectors can actually bring generators and hook in to the power. You don't necessarily have to turn on utilities, you can, but that would be something that you would work with the owner or the asset manager of the property to arrange for that, and they'll tell you whether they're doing it at their expense or yours. It's usually at yours. But I've seen inspectors where they'll actually bring a portable generator and they can test the things that they need to right then. On the remaining properties thereafter, I have not done inspections except on flips. If I'm flipping a house, I will pay for an inspection every time and twice on Sunday because my buyer will. And I would rather have 5-6 weeks while I'm working on the property and marketing it for sale to know about those issues before they slap me in the butt with oh, well, we need a $4,000 discount because this and this is wrong. No, I'd like to know those things in advance, and I'll gladly pay the $400, $500 to have that inspection done. So yes and no. Yes, as a realtor, yes, do it every time. I have not shown and demonstrated that. Yes?
Do you know of any other cities that have the landlord certification program like Garland does?
Are there any other cities like Garland that have a landlord program? I do not know of any, but I know that a lot of investors are putting pressures on other cities because they're saying, man, we want to buy in Garland because Mesquite, for example, and I own property in Mesquite, but Mesquite makes you show up to the police station and pay the $50 deposit in person. And oh, by the way, you got to have the driver's license of the person who owns that property in order to turn it on. So I bought a property in my wife's name one time and had to have her fax her driver's license just to get the damn water turned on at a rental property so that Harvey could do his work. So I don't know of any, but I wish that there were more. Yes?
It's pretty obvious why you'd want to do a tax adjustment with your local office if you were doing a rental. Obviously, that's going to affect your cash flow, but I learned something pretty interesting from you about why you would want to do it on a flip. Do you think you could share that with us?
Sure. So we're talking about protesting your tax assessed values. And again, we don't protest property tax rates. Those are set by the municipalities and local governments. We protest what they value the house at. So do you do it on rentals? Every single time, every year. I even protested my own personal residence, which they dropped $6,000 in assessed value this year. That was not good enough for me. So I got them to drop it another $3,000. So it's not greedy. I'm not against paying taxes. I just prefer to pay my fair share and no more. With regard to flips, do you do it with a flip? It depends on the days on market. If you're dealing with a property that you know you're going to rehab in 3 weeks and sell in 14 days, there might not be enough time for a 5-week property tax assessed value protest. My experience with property tax protesting is that you send in a letter, you wait 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes for somebody to get back to you and call you and give you a letter saying, come in this month on this day at this time, and then you just go take that in person and say, I'd like to forego that, let's get this done now. So it depends on how much time that you have, but my experience with flipping, I've actually protested the property tax values on a house that I bought to flip. And here was the result. I took a house that I had paid $79,000 for. It was in Plano, right near Alma and Spring Creek area. And I had bought it for $79 grand. It was an estate sale of a retired veteran who had passed, and badly in need of repairs. One of the bedrooms was 3 inches underwater. And that thing was taxed at about $115,000. And I took that thing down to $79 grand, my purchase price. And it was very easy to do. However, what the benefit of that and the side effect was that I bought that thing in December of last year. And so I got to protest it all the way back to January 1 of last year, way past the deadline to do so. And I got all the tax money at the new value rebated back to me, because remember, I bought this thing in December. You buy a property after October 1st when taxes are officially, is it October 1st? Yeah. Taxes are due. Title company is going to withhold the tax money and pay that right for you right then. You don't get an option if you close in the last quarter of the year. And so on that particular deal, the title company had already paid all the taxes for me at the 100 and whatever thousand rate that it was being taxed at. Guess who sent me checks 2 months later? Plano ISD, Collin County. So that was a $1,500 rebate I got, aggregate. Just going off, filling out a form, sending it in, and showing up to Collin County. So I would absolutely do that.
Yes, two more questions.
We'll take 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
Just a comment about what you just said. It's really depends if you're going to flip the property, you want it to be higher taxes, pay the extra $100,000, $3,000, because otherwise people are going gonna buy it, say, oh, the property is valued very low, the tax record, they're not gonna pay what you want to flip it.
Right, so I had that same experience on the same property that I protested that was a flip. The buyers came in and said, whoa, you're asking, $139,000 for this property. This thing says that it's worth 79. I'm like, no, go talk to your broker associate that's representing you, because they'll clearly tell you that tax assessed values mean nothing, except how much you write a check for each year. They mean nothing. Did I say that clearly? Nothing. Tax assessed values mean nothing in the real estate market. They're not even a measurement of what that property's worth. They're not even close. Show me a property that has a realtor or a tax appraiser's value that matches what the county says that thing is worth. I've never seen one. Never. I've seen them sometimes close. My own personal residence is off by $40,000 from that. That's the delta of that. And I've seen them off by, I've made them off by 60. And so the way that I handled that was I explained to them, look, this is what I did, and I have effectively reduced your tax burden because I sold it to an owner-occupant. And I said, you're going to be living in this house, you're going to claim it as your homestead, you're going to tell the county that on January 1, and they are by law forbidden from raising your property tax assessed value by more than 10% every year. I have effectively reduced your tax burden back to 1989 is what I reset that thing. I said it's going to take them 12 years for the county and the school districts to catch up to what I just did for you.
Because the tax is going to be reassessed by the past you sold it to. So if you're going to sell it for 115, it's
No.
going to be reassessed to 115.
Tax assessment is done once a year, and that's on January 1, whoever owned it as of January 1.
Property, and they assess it when you sell it again. It's going to be the next year they're going to assess it.
That's correct. And if you bought a property,
For what you did.
right.
You're only going to benefit, but you're going to have this. Anyway, my question
Yeah.
was about the financing. When you bought the house, for example, for $57,000, did you do hard money loan or did you pay cash?
That one I did a hard money loan on. Because we did $57,000 plus it was another $21 in rehab, so it was $78,000 is what I needed to buy and fix it up, and I did a hard money loan. I'm sorry?
When you refinance,
Yes.
you go to the bank, usually most of the time they would say, you own it $72, they're going to give you either the 72 or if you want to cash out 70% of it, they're not going to give you the appraised value. How did you get 103 to appraise for and supposedly you could?
My experience is that they will take the appraised value, but they will not do cash out refis. This was last year, and cash out refis were virtually non-existent in my realm, but what my experience was, and I've got 7 finance properties, that they will not give you more than the current lien payoff plus closing costs. They will not give you $1 more than that. You will not get a check back. I think the most I've ever gotten back from a title company is $100.
I'm going to go through, when we do this, part of this comps thing, it breaks down all the financial aspects of a deal and shows you real quickly. I'm going to go through that later.
I'm just curious, out of the $21,000 you spent, how much you spent on finance? Is it included in there or not?
I'll show you what that scenario looks like
Yeah.
when we go to the next thing.
And it'll vary from lender to lender.
One more question from somebody in here. Somebody had their hand up.
Yes, ma'am.
What business form do you own this under?
So the question was, what business form do you own this under? I own it in 2 different entities. I did 6 properties all by myself. Again, partnerships suck. Do as many as you can, as long as you have all 4 of those elements, the time, money, credit, knowledge. Do as many as you can. I did 6 of those in a sole proprietor, because the legal formation of your company is going to probably be the last thing on the totem pole that an attorney goes after if there's a problem. First of all, your management style is going to forego a lot of problems, and the way that I manage my tenants and my relationship with them is such that they're not going to sue me just because they don't like me. I hope that I'm a likable guy. But if that's not the case and something does happen, I also have a insurance policy on that home. And above that, I have an umbrella insurance that covers all my properties. So if anything happens, whether it's me, my kids, anybody does anything, that umbrella insurance can cover that more, and probably Ryan can speak a lot better, more educated. Again, hire people that are smarter than you to help you guide through those. But the other half of that answer is that I also have a limited partnership, and I formed that because I ran out of money after I did 6 properties at 20 grand a pop, and I decided I needed to partner because 29 days of the month were boring when I wasn't collecting rent checks. And so I partnered with someone that was going to be a silent all-cash partner. They had no impact on how the business was run, and we did a limited partnership so that we had clearly defined roles and responsibilities, who was putting what into the relationship, who was going to get what out of the relationship, and we did that in a limited partnership just because it's not my wife.
It's a LLC.
It's a limited partnership. Yep. So good questions. But I also have an LLC with something non-real estate related for similar reasons. Somebody that I'm not married to and that we want to protect each other from each other. So if it's just you, yourself, and I, do them in a sole proprietorship would be my recommendation. That's how I've done it, but again, I'm not an attorney. And, but you know, there is the philosophy that you can put those in an LLC, but try finding a lender, Fannie Mae lender, that will give you a 30-year note to an LLC, because it doesn't happen.
All right, just to follow up, thank you very much, Jerry.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.